Matters, presented by IntoWork Australia, leaders in employment, skills and support.
Hello and welcome back to Work Matters, brought to you by the team over at IntoWork Australia. I'm your host, Mike Loader, and for the moment we're discussing the labour market, the conditions, and I'm going to bring in Poul Bottern, the Group CEO of IntoWork, to outline a little bit more about what's going on. Paul, as always, thank you for your time.
Great to be here, Mike.
Now, it's an interesting time. There's a near record low unemployment, however there's also an ongoing labour shortage, which is not great news. Take us through a little bit more about your understanding what you've seen.
Look, it really is fascinating. We've got about 1,600 staff now across IntoWork, right across the country, in all states and territories, focused around employment, skills and support. And the constant theme that's coming back is, yes, we've got huge job vacancies everywhere. Businesses, industries need people. And at the same time, you've got certain cohorts, certain parts of our community who are missing out. And one of those key, groups of people are First Nations peoples. And First Nations peoples clearly are spread out right across the country, but there is a challenge there in terms of they have not seen the same employment levels that the rest of the country has. So sitting with such low unemployment rates right across the country. However, if you look at the comparison, there's about 50, well, this is back in 2021, it's even more of a market difference now. 55% of all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, First Nations people, were employed, compared to about 77% right across the population. So quite a marked and concerning difference, really.
Absolutely, yeah. But to say the least, there's more opportunity now than ever before to change those numbers and hopefully do some good. Is that the point you want?
Absolutely. And look, we operate a program called Workforce Australia on behalf of the federal government, and we are running different programs right across different jurisdictions, different areas right across the country in that program. This is about long-term, people who are longer-term unemployed, getting them back into employment. But one of the things we found is you need to have specific focus programs for different cohorts of people in different areas. So for First Nations people, we've had some great initiatives, say in the Mackay area. We have a First Nations mobile employment consultant who's been out into the communities, into local Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities, where they're working with them about local initiatives about how to be able to help them to be able to become work ready and then create employment pathways as well from there. And in one of our businesses called DGT, we've also there been working on a different initiative, an exciting initiative there, together with the local federal government's local jobs program. So it's been great to be able to see both across at IntoJobs from Workforce Australia, but also in DGT, this great new initiative too.
Fantastic. Well, let's bring in our guest. It sounds like a perfect moment to bring in our guest for today. And joining us is Odette Pihl from the local jobs program, Brisbane Southeast Employment Region. It's good to see you, Odette. Thanks for joining us on the program.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me.
No worries at all. So what sort of approach do you understand is needed to address these higher than average figures that Paul's outlined for us this morning?
There really needs to be a targeted approach when we're dealing with some of the marginalised cohorts, so being First Nations or youth or mature age called participants. So there's a number of different cohorts, but in particular the First Nations cohort that we've been working with the DGT program specifically, we've created a lot of wraparound supports to go with the program, just to really give the participants the best possible opportunity at successfully completing the program and moving into permanent full-time employment.
Fantastic. So tell us about how the DGT Engineering is the career program for First Nations people, how it came about.
So it was one of our local recovery fund programs that was approved mid last year, and the Brisbane Southeast Employment Region, our task force, we have a First Nations Employment Action Group, which forms part of our task force, and we decided that we would grab this program and work with DGT Employment and Training and put together a First Nations cohort to help boost the participant level in the program, but also to really target the First Nations cohort, because we've got 9.54% of the caseload in Brisbane Southeast are First Nations participants.
Absolutely, well said by you. Just to finish for me, Odette, why are these targeted programs so important in your belief and because of the work that you're doing as well? Can you summarise for us if you had to distill it down?
Well, it is a complex issue, but to summarise it, the participants that are on the caseload really need targeted support. They need that mentoring. They need people such as myself and the Indigenous mentor that we had on the program, advocating for them with employers to help employers really understand what the participants need and how the employers can support them and work through into permanent employment.
Of course, well said. And as we know, it's an ongoing discussion. Odette, I want to thank you for joining us on the program. It's all the time I've got for you today, but thank you again for bringing this to our attention.
Thank you for having me.
Paul, of course, thank you to you for joining me on the program.
Thanks,
and of course, thank you to all of you for joining me as well. We look forward to seeing you all again next time here on Work Matters. Be well.